Maryland's certainly a terrific team at home. Probably a lot like a lot of us played much better at home, seem to, than on the road. Draw a lot of positive energy from their crowd. And terrific offensive rebounding team, best in the conference. And a really big, strong team that physically you've got to really be ready to play, compete at a high level to beat them, especially at their place.
Questions?
Yes.
Coach,
Go ahead.
Rob was saying earlier how it took a while for them to shake off the last loss. Just in practices you've seen, did they seem to finally maybe really start honing in on Maryland?
You know, we didn't practice Monday. Tuesday we did individuals. We did a lot of skill work, about an hour with guys in groups of two to just kind of get back to fundamentals on some certain things, and just because we had some extra time. Then Wednesday we had a good hard practice. I thought the guys were, pretty good. Yesterday a little bit shorter, but pretty competitive. In fact, I thought some of the purple team, the guys off the bench, I thought played well yesterday. And we'll see how we look today, but I think it's one of those things where you're building for the game. But no doubt it was a very, very difficult loss to come back from a little bit, to be honest with you.
Did this team need this break?
Yeah, we've played a lot of games. It was nice to, individuals are a little bit different in that you don't have everybody around. It's more personal time with the coach, which I think can be good. Individual time with the kid working on his game. So that's probably positive. So yeah, for the long run, it was probably good to only have one game this week.
I guess the negative though is that that one loss lingered longer than normally it would.
Yeah, you just haven't, you haven't played again, obviously, to think about the next thing. But that's probably okay in this instance. Certainly, as I mentioned, this was a hard one to get over. We've had a couple of these, to be honest, about 3 of these that have been, really difficult this year, and it tests you, no question. I'm anxious to see how we respond. We'll be in an extremely hostile environment, one where, because of the way the other team plays and the strength they get from that environment, you really have to play well to overcome all the extra emotion. And certainly with Maryland having lost at BC, this game will have got extra added significance from their coaches the last couple of days. I'm sure their questions they're getting are, this is a must-win for the NCAA tournament berth. So, they're going to be jacked and ready to go.
Have you ever had a year like this where you've had so many as a head coach, so close, but yet so far away still?
Yeah, I've had a couple seasons where it doesn't seem like all the close games even out, and that happens. I mean, usually a lot of times with younger teams, we had some close losses last year. Some we won a few. In the nature of basketball, it's going to happen. You're going to be involved in closer games, and some are closer than others. But that's just part of it, and it takes special players to rise up in those situations and really want to be difference makers. Hopefully that the experience that our guys are getting from this year will help us not only the rest of the season but in the future.
Have you seen some of your guys sort of start to emerge as difference makers and take on that mentality?
I don't think we have anybody that's right there yet, but it's, I'm proud of Rod's attempts to drive to the basket. I think, in the NC State game he made it. He made a tough, 6-footer or whatever runner that gave us the 4-point lead. And, obviously he had some shots that he probably should have made in the Miami game, and had one tough call that's obviously eats at us a little bit. But, KJ's still learning. and getting comfortable doing that. But that's part of what you go through in these situations with young players is, you know, their ability to try to deal with that. Sometimes they're going to be good, sometimes they're not. You know, you just talk to them about it and keep moving.
Do you have to keep them going? I mean, it seems like at some point in all this, it would have been easy for some of these guys to kind of start to give up. I'm curious what you say to kind of keep that at bay despite some of these tough losses.
Yeah, it's not as easy to maybe to maintain a focus or to be as excited about the next time. Sometimes when losses can linger, bad performances or situations where you've really poured your heart into something and played well, and then it doesn't go well at the end. You know, that's the thing about a lot of us who try anything in sports or whatever it is, music or something. If you put your heart and soul into something and then it doesn't work out, that really hurts. When you don't put as much into it, it doesn't hurt as much. And you know, the cautionary tale then is when you try like that and it doesn't work out, next time maybe I'm not going to try as hard because it's painful. And when you play so many games, it's a little different in that it's easier for guys to not maybe invest all the way all the time, especially if your season's not going, you know, terrifically well, where you know you're making an NCAA tournament or one of those things. I think it's easier to just to kind of go play and see how it goes as opposed to putting everything you have into getting ready for a big, you know, for a game. So, you know, that's stuff we're dealing with here in the last month.
Is it too early to think about seeding for the ACC tournament, that this is a team that's, you know, a game ahead of you?
We're not, don't worry about those kinds of things. We're just going to play our league and see how we do. And, you know, the last day or two of the season, there'll be 3 or 4 or 5 different scenarios and see how it all turns out and shakes out.
Have you thought much at all this week or since the news broke about Maryland leaving the ACC? Does it seem how weird this would be? Last time Clemson goes there?
You know, it is a little strange to think of that. Just, you know, being asked about it by Baltimore radio stations and things of that nature. I'm sure you'll get asked about it a lot by their media when we get up there. You know, certainly hate to see it. Charter member, team with a lot of rich tradition in basketball and history in our league. You hate to see these kinds of things, but this is, you know, it's the, I don't know if it's the new face, but it's the changing of the guard in college athletics. It's just not the same anymore. You know, these expanded leagues have made everything different, and some's good, some's not good, and you know, I think this is a little bit unfortunate, but we'll see.
Ideally, where would you like to see Roper settle in? Do you look at him as a potential point guy? Is he going to be
You know, I don't know. He's always going to have a scoring mentality, and you know, that's a good thing. It's one of the big reasons why we recruited him is we knew at least I felt like he was a guy that would be confident offensively and be a guy who would try to make baskets. I think it would be, you know, more advantageous for us moving forward if he can play some more point. He just hasn't been 100% comfortable in that role yet. And obviously there's a lot of other guys there, so, you know, we've kind of moved him around at different times. I think, you know, I've talked a lot about, I think there are many times in games where it really helps your team to have 2 ball handlers out there, 2 primary ball handlers, guys that are good decision makers, passers, dribblers, and I think you're seeing more and more teams playing with multiple ball handling type of point guards because of it, because they don't want to turn the ball over, and because they want guys out there that can dribble and create, especially with all the ball screening. With ball screening, there's sometimes, you know, you'd rather have another guy that can come off and make decisions off the ball screen.
When you look at your young big guys, Landry and Josh and even Bernard, have you seen sort of progress from those guys that they can?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's been a ton of progress in games, which I don't think when you play 5 to 8 minutes, I don't think it's going to be realistic to show a lot of that. But I think in practice we've seen some things that we like, and you know, they're hard workers, so we know they'll improve through the off season. You know, right now they're just in a situation where they're playing behind two guys that are, you know, I mean, Devin Booker's had a terrific season, and you know, he's going to play 35 minutes most nights. That's just, you know, as long as there's no fouls and if the game isn't crazy pace-wise, he's just going to be out there a lot. I just think you do that. And Milt, you know, for the most part, is going to play 30 to 35 minutes depending on games, and you know, so it's hard because those are your better players. It's the same thing at times last year with Andre Young and a little bit with Tanner, where those guys were our better players at those positions, older, most experienced guys, and consistently they played the best, and so we went with it. And you know, Milt's a little different just because when he's shooting the ball well, he's a difference maker in that he stretches things so much. And even when he doesn't shoot it as well, his ability or his threat of shooting creates things for other players. Inside with Book, maybe a driving lane for Jordan Roper because their guy's guarding a little higher out on the court than he normally would be. And so there are things that go on in games that it's just the benefit of having another guy with shooting range, and that you don't maybe see in a stat. You know, that really, because Rod Hall's driving this lane and he's got Milt over here as opposed to maybe another guy who can't shoot as deep, there's more space to get down that lane line and score. Or there's more space to feed the ball to Book because you've got to guard Milt farther out. And so I think there are some things that we benefit from with Milt that, you know, maybe aren't as easy to the average fan to see.
I got a last question.
What do you think of KJ's overall progression this year, sort of the ebbs and flows?
You know, it's been pretty normal. This is about how I thought he would play. He certainly always, you know, he shows the highlight plays, and you don't see as many of those in conference play sometimes because the games grind. I think he's improved with his skill level, but still has much room for improvement in terms of decision making, beating guys one-on-one, and making a basket or making a play. But you know, there are certainly times where he's done it. You know, and he was very good in the Georgia Tech game in the second half, making some plays and drawing a foul, and, you know, creating some situations that were good. You know, he obviously had all kinds of opportunities in the Miami game and didn't convert. And but he's made great steps. You know, especially again for a guy who hasn't played his whole life on the perimeter. He's been more athletic than he has been skill-wise, and so there's just a ton for a guy like that to learn. Having said that, I think he's made really good strides, and optimistic that he'll make another big one next year. And that's, I think, when we start to see him maybe being a little bit better passer and creating a few more things for others, we'll know that that's when he's, you know, he's really reaching more of his potential.
Okay, thank you, Coach.
Okay, thank you guys.
Thank you.
How's it going, man?
Good, Coach.
Guys doing well?
Mm-hmm.